think history has shown that that can happen.
Did it happen?
In my opinion, yes.
Why? The evidence suggests Reagan and Bush administration officials were protecting a highly sophisticated CIA covert operation in western Arkansas. It involved Barry Seal, a CIA operative and DEA informant who was running guns out of and drugs into the Mena airport. In this 1991 deposition before the Arkansas State Attorney General and then Congressman Bill Alexander, CIA pilot Richard Brennicky detailed the cargo he transported as part of the Barry Seal operation. From Mena, I would take people who had been trained in and around Mena, generally paramilitary or military forces from Central America. They would be taken back to Panama City, where I would drop them. And in addition to that, we would carry weapons that were being shipped down there. Enter Terry Reed, former CIA operative, pilot, and author of the book, Compromise, Clinton, Bush, and the CIA. Reed says he trained about 24 Nicaraguan Contra pilots in 1984 and 85 from this landing strip near Nilla. Reed says he quit the CIA after discovering agency operatives were running drugs out of Mexico. In his 1991 deposition, CIA pilot Brennicky says he flew cocaine from Panama to Arkansas. In each load, said Brennicky, he carried 400 to 600 pounds. He said he flew it to Mena, Arkansas. Brennicky says he laundered drug money for the CIA through numerous foreign banks, including the infamous BCCI, Bank of Credit and Commerce International. Bill Clinton said he created ADFA in 1985 to expand industry in Arkansas and create jobs. The marketing director, Larry Nichols, says as governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton had the power to stop the ADFA loan to his friends, the Wards, and Parkometer.
And it goes all the way to the top. Bill Clinton had to personally sign off on every bond issue, on everything that was done at ADFA.
And what about the CIA covert operations money, the profits from the drug and gun sales? Some of the money was dropped from airplanes at night and onto this property near Little Rock.
Cash was being jettisoned from aircraft that were flying into the Little Rock airport. On final approach, the pilot would set up the approach so that he would fly over a predetermined drop zone and quietly jettison a duffel bag that would normally contain approximately $3 million.
Reed says at the time the property was owned by Seth Ward. Where did the CIA money go once it was dropped onto the alleged Ward property? Reed, the former senior CIA source, and Nichols allege it was laundered through the Dan Lassiter bond firm. The Lassiter firm was underwriter for some of the ADFA bond issues.
I could never find a bond issue. I could never find where one person sold a bond.
Lassiter was a close friend of then-Governor Bill Clinton. In 1986, he pleaded guilty to distributing cocaine. He served 2.5 years in prison and was then pardoned by Clinton. Did some of those profits from gun sales and other CIA operations end up back in the United States? Remember, Brennicky and other former CIA sources say some of the money was deposited into accounts with BCCI, and BCCI does have a U.S. Little Rock connection. It involves Little Rock billionaire Jackson Stevens of Stevens, Inc. Stevens helped arrange a deal in which Union Bank of Switzerland, reportedly a joint venture partner of BCCI, bought $25 million in stock interest of the Texas-based Harken Energy Corporation. The director of Harken Energy is the son of former President Bush. During the same period of time, the Lassiter Company was being sued by several savings and loans for illegal trading of Treasury bond futures. Former Rose Law Firm partners, the late Vincent Foster and Hillary Clinton, represented the federal government in the First American and home federal disputes, two of the savings and loans that sued Lassiter. The lawsuits were settled with Lassiter having to pay 1 dime for every dollar of damages requested. At the same time of the illegal trading and the S&L lawsuits, a series of assassination attempts began on Dennis Patrick's life.
I know that no one ever threatened my life that I'm aware of. No man had ever been hired to come and murder me until this situation occurred.
Was there a link between the illegal trading and the assassination attempts against Dennis Patrick? Lassiter has refused to talk.
I have to point out that Roger Clinton, being a hanger-on of Dan Lassiter and also of Barry Seal, he eventually, of course, he was blowing cocaine on a regular basis and snorting it. I want you to watch this. This is very brief. This is genuine undercover footage of Roger Clinton. And he makes an interesting statement here relative to his brother, if you'll watch this.
Several eyewitnesses have testified that the Clinton boys have been heavy coke freaks. This film clip, taken from Jeremiah's startling undercover video, Mina, the cover-up, shows Roger Clinton in this police surveillance tape doing a line of cocaine.
I took 3/4 of an ounce.
Roger said he took 3/4 of an ounce, and it was reported. He said, I've got to get some coke from my brother. He's got a nose like a vacuum cleaner. A nose like a vacuum cleaner. Well, that's kind of a heavy statement coming from the brother of the president in reference to the president's habits. Although I had noticed that it seems the president sort of has a nasal problem or an asthmatic type problem periodically. Maybe this would help clear his head. You know, there's something everybody has to understand, though. What we're looking at here is not a partisan problem. It's not the left or the right. It's not Republicans or Democrats that are corrupted in any one given administration. It's both sides of the fence. Most of it is above the level of most of the Senate and the Congress. I'm going to say at least half of them don't know what's going on. The Central Intelligence Agency certainly have been involved with it and involved in a cover-up. The Justice Department has been involved with shutting things down, investigations. And we have to look at another agency called the ISA, which is above the CIA. And this intelligence services agency had been involved profusely with these cover-ups and interfacing and above top secret covert operations that fell also into the drug operations. You know, back in, give you a good example, 1986, November, I believe it was November 26th of 1986, at the Yuma Proving Grounds, which is a top secret military, mostly Army armament, large shells and larger armament which comes out of there and is what they use actually as a proving grounds. It's actually secret to the extent that you cannot fly over it. If an airline flies over it, they have to get special clearances, and to land there, of course, you have to have certainly a special clearance. On November 26, 1986, a medium-sized craft got some types of clearances, landed, and amazingly enough, out on the outskirts of the airstrip, the pilot fell asleep in the craft, and nobody bothered him until the following day when the security guards came across him asleep. And with a little bit of conversation with the people that were running the base, they ordered up fuel. They refueled the craft, and he flew off without being interrogated or investigated at all for landing at a top security, high security base there at the Proving Grounds. Interestingly enough, the following day, and this is, by the way, a long story that I'm very much abbreviating, the following day, they discovered right at the location where the craft had landed 17 duffel bags of pure cocaine, some 1,400 pounds of cocaine. And the value of that coke, by the way, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 to $300 million at the street level. And it's sort of like a story that just vanished. A few people wrote about it, etc. But the big point here is that there was some kind of a clearance for him to land, and that very same day was the time when they were going into Oliver North's offices and starting to go through the paperwork. And it was a big red flag, and a big panic had gone up throughout the Oliver North Contra programs. And my feeling is that the people that were to pick up that coke were scared by the new red flag and the excitement that was going around Washington relative to the investigations of the Contras, so they never picked up the cocaine, and they just simply left it on the airbase.